Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Like and subscribe.
My name is Dominic, and I'm your host. Welcome to the Sit, Walk, Work podcast, a show about paying attention. If you find today's episode valuable, please share with your friends and family, and feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. The show will begin after the following chimes. I want to start us off with talking about the idea of love and joy. At the time of this recording, it is Valentine's Day here in the US, and the marketing machine is doing what it does. It's asking for tributes, and everyone's buying flowers and taking their partners out to dinner and spending an exorbitant amount of money on shit that they probably don't need. I don't really love that particularly. The consumerism, if you will, that nature that is attached with, this idea of celebration of love and of joy and of happiness. I do like the idea that the day is dedicated for that purpose. You could choose any day and do it for that purpose. And again, you don't have to play into any of the consumerism of it all. But I think that it is, and it does draw a lot of people's attention in. It also brings up something that people don't ever talk about. It brings up a lot of sadness. People feel really lonely today because they don't have a partner. And you look to the culture and to the world and hope that it eventually reflects you back. And that is an inherent thing we do as human beings. So don't knock yourself for doing it. But here's the thing. You don't need the world to validate that. Like that isn't, if you look out there and you don't see yourself, well, cool, that's fine. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you. That's indicative of a larger problem. And as someone who has looked into the world and not seen himself reflected back, I've chosen to move forward anyway. And in a lot of cases, try to put myself out there in a way so that I could reflect back when others go to look. But what I want to talk about a little bit today that we normally don't get into is how can we create a continuum of joy and love. And so most of us treat these things as very relative experiences, like they come and go, and that coming and going is typically dependent upon the changing conditions of your life. I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, I'll be happy with. Like these things have to happen in order for you to feel like happiness has arrived. Which, hence why I said some people it's a sad day today because they don't have a partner, so they don't feel like they should feel joy or happiness that's being sold and told and marketed and shoved down our throats with or without our permission. And a lot of our joy is attached to objects, right? That's why the diamond companies told every man within earshot of a radio or a television that the only way to really show their love for their partner was to buy them a very expensive diamond. That's not true. Actually, diamonds had no value when they were originally created. That value was generated and created by the marketing machine. And those stories were told until we believed it was true. And most women, sensible, hardworking women, know that they don't need a diamond to feel loved. But there's a lot that feel that that's also true too. And so it works kind of in both ways. And here's the thing we also find out over time, right? Those things do feel joy and love, but they do so in a very temporary way. I like to think of them like the junk food of life. Like you fill up on buying these objects, cars, houses, clothes, diamonds, flowers, and they're wonderful for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, a little bit longer. And then all of that dissipates, which is kind of ironic because looking externally for our joy, our happiness, and our love takes us away from any of the internal, inherent peace, well-being, and joy that we carry around with us all the time. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, Dom, of course, like, yeah, I know that I could be happy, but that's not the same. Yeah, I know it's not the same because you've been told that it needed to be a bigger thing. You haven't learned to fall in love with the ordinary. Yeah, I'm gonna just hold that there for a second. You haven't learned to fall in love with the ordinary, with the beautiful, with the breath you just took. See, you take that for granted. You don't know what it's like to have the breath not show up. Because by the time you find that out, it'll be too late. But the reality is, there's a lot of beautiful, precious, joyful things happening all around you, but you can't see them because you want a diamond. You want the flowers. You want the fancy house and the fancy cars and all of the things, and that'll tell you. But it won't tell you forever. Just long enough for you to eventually need to get some more of it to fill up the bank, fill up the tank. And so I teach something called iRest, and part of that process of meditation is that you learn to experience your inner sense of joy and your well-being, independent of all of the things I just described. It connects you back to your birthright and reminds you that it's present always, even though it's hidden behind our busy mind, or our thoughts or our feelings. And in practicing this way, we get to reconnect to a well-being that already belongs to us, regardless of the circumstances, independent of condition. Which for me, I love that because it means that it's always available. It's more about attuning my way of thinking so that I can get the station of love and joy. Like I can tune it in such a way that I just turn my attention to it. And there it is, ready and available. I don't have to wait for something. Nobody has to buy me anything. People don't have to do stuff for me. I don't have to do things for people. This inner smile, this sensation of pleasure, happiness, well-being, hell, you might even get good enough to call it bliss. I haven't got there yet, so I'm not gonna stake my claim on it. But I imagine that if you practice, as with most things, your knowledge and experience of it expands. And so it can be difficult, right? Like to know how to feel internal joy. And so one of the ways that you can do that is by simply recalling a time when you felt a moment of pleasure, kindness, or gratitude. Almost like daydreaming. Let the memory pop in, let it build up, add some sensory information to it, make it large, make it big. Let yourself get lost in that thought. On and on and on. And that's just a little exercise you can play to get a sense for what and how that shows up for you. It's different for everybody, but I'm really, right now, I'm planting the seed, right? That what you think you know about how this stuff should be isn't necessarily the only way. There is another option, and this is kind of where I'm presenting to you. This idea that we start to broaden our view as to love, what is joy, what is happiness, beyond just what's been sold and told to us. And here's the deal. For some of us, even trying to recall a time when we felt joy may be difficult. Yeah, even trying to recall a time where we felt joy might be a difficult thing for us to do. It's not always normal. And sometimes it isn't there right away. And here's what I want you to know. Nothing's wrong with you if it's not. This practice of meditation, this practice of paying attention isn't so you can judge yourself. It's so you can learn yourself. And all good things take time. And I can tell you right now, from my own personal experience, from everything I've ever studied or read, this stuff just doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to develop these particular muscles. They're atrophied. They haven't been used. If all you've ever done is had everything turned up to 1,000 and I come in and ask you to start to play in these very subtle spaces, you might not hear or feel anything for a while. But what you can do is begin to plant the seeds. I like this idea because in the space of loving kindness meditation or meta meditation, there's this concept that meta is about planting intentions. Often when people first come across that type of meditation, they don't feel anything at first. It feels very contrite. It feels very fake. Hell is the other way. Same thing, but yeah, you get it. Like it feels fake. Doesn't feel like I'm saying these words to myself and they don't make any sense. So for context and loving kindness, what you do is you have these phrases of metta that you repeat like a mantra as you sit in your meditation. And they're well wishes that you're basically wanting to provide yourself. Like a mother would give her child well wishes and blessings. Or a parent would give their child well wishes and blessings. Like it's that, but for yourself. And the first time you do it for yourself, it's hard. It's super hard. Because we're not used to that. And you can just plant these seeds. And like Sharon Salzberg has this dope story where she talks about she spent months doing a metta retreat and like she felt nothing. Like it was completely, to her, it was a complete waste of her time, right? Like it was like, oh, this really isn't working. And then like, and I'm paraphrasing a lot, but like the story goes on, like, she dropped something and it broke. And she went to let the normal chastising mind of hers kind of reply to how silly she was for having made that mistake. And she didn't. She was kind to herself. She gave herself some grace. She had patience and understanding with herself. She saw her humanity in that moment. And I think that's where a lot of the heart practices work. They ain't going to show themselves immediately. But you'll know when you're a little softer, when you're a little more patient with the person at the grocery store who isn't moving as quickly as you do. When you don't react to the bad news your kid brings home, when you can pause and listen for a moment and then make a decision. Like when these things start to come together like that in that way, yeah, that's a little bit of these heart practices poking through. When you can really take gratitude from the overused platitude it is to really realizing the beauty of the fact that you woke up this morning. Like how many things had to go right just for that to happen? Your systems came online, your feet worked, your breath was present. Your eyesight was working. All of this, your heart was pumping, everything that had to happen just for you to open your eyes and be able to go about today and do what you needed to do. So yeah, that's my ask to you today and really every day. Make it a priority to love and care for yourself a little bit. It is okay to do that. You are worth doing that for. I'll close it out with this cool metaphor that one of my students gave me this week, and I'll share it with you. He said that at the end of the day, him and his partner, as they're recounting their day, they talk about their roses and their thorns. And the roses would be anything beautiful that happened to them that day. The thorns, obviously, were the challenges that come along with our beauty, right? A reminder that that is the nature and the balance as such in life. That for every beautiful rose you get, you're probably going to get poked with a thorn or two along the way. But here's the deal. I still like roses. I still want my beauty. And if this heart type work that we're talking about in today's episode is about planting seeds, well, then I'm going to fill my garden up so that when my roses bloom, I have enough for myself to enjoy, but I certainly have enough to give away to everyone else.
That's the beauty of it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I invite you to check out my Substack, where we are building a community of like-minded individuals to discuss all topics related to the idea of paying attention. I hope to see you there. But until then, with Meta, may you be well.
Like and subscribe.